We got a special guest coming up here now, man. I think he's a pimp. I don't know. I'm Hey, this could be the pimp of Philly. I don't know here, man. But the segment is now with my man Tone. He joins us now here. And here he is. Look at this, man. I heard that cheerleading today, man. I heard it.
What can I say? What can I say, sir? First and foremost, my friend Sileo. Top of the morning to you, well, top of the afternoon. Well, it doesn't really matter. But the bottom line is the Philadelphia Eagles are once again winners. 8-1 on the NFL season. They take a pretty stern handle on the NFC East. Things aren't locked up yet, but they take a pretty nice lead, a 2.5 game lead, I might say. But man, oh man, how about them Cowboys? How about them?
I can't get over the rhetoric that's going on, Tone, around the country. That, I mean, you would think they would be talking about Hurts playing and the way that they gutted up and won that ball game. But no, man, it's all about how the Cowboys hung in there.
Listen, I'll give credit where credit is due, okay? Because we're going to talk about the Eagles for the most part of this segment. But I'll give credit where credit is due. Dak Prescott, he came in and tried to play a hell of a game. He did his absolute best. You know what I mean? 29 for 44, 374 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. We know the stats. We know how it went down. CeeDee Lamb did the best he could. But the sad reality is when you need Dak Prescott to be franchised, when you need him to validate that $45 million contract, what does he do? He takes a delay of game. He takes a sack. They get false starts. He throws incomplete passes. He throws it to his number 3 target instead of throwing it to CeeDee Lamb or his tight end who's been balling out. You see the boneheaded moments. You see my guy Jalen Hurts, right? Here's the magical thing about my guy Jalen Hurts. He always understands the assignment. And that's the bottom line. That's the baseline in football. That's the baseline in life. Always understand what's expected of you. Always understand what's required. And that's the difference between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. Jalen Hurts, he didn't have gargantuan numbers, but I'll put it to you like this. It had gargantuan impact. 17 to 23, completing 76% of his passes. 2 passing touchdowns, right? 207 passing yards. 36 rushing yards, a rushing TD, so 3 total TDs on the day. If you ask me, I think my guy had the more efficient, the more impactful game. Came out of the second half, came out of the half with a bum knee and carved them up for 2 touchdowns, a beautiful dime to Devontae Smith, and then he hit A.J. Brown with the ball in the flat, and A.J. Brown did A.J. Brown things, man. We knew this game was going to be physical. We knew it was going to be tough. It's a divisional matchup, but we know how well the Dallas Cowboys play us. In particular, we know how well Dak Prescott plays the Philadelphia Eagles. We knew it was going to be tough. But what did I tell you last week? This is going to be the first game that we're going to see the Philadelphia Eagles not turn the ball over. Well, technically it's the second, but I told you in this game, they're not going to turn the ball over. Jalen Hurts won't turn it over. No one else will. He won't throw an interception. Now, we saw some
ball
fumbles
hit
here and
the
there.
carpet a few times, though.
We saw it. Hey, listen. If a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, did it happen?
Oh, nope.
Did it happen? So, hey, listen. The ball hit the carpet a couple of times, but they managed to find life and they held onto that ball because, listen, that game was won and lost. That game was won and lost in a matter of 12 inches, man. It's a game of inches, and I love it. It's beautiful. I'll tell you that much.
Here's what I've always been trying to say to people since the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts did not outplay Mahomes in that game. He outstatted him.
Yeah.
But what you just said about making situational plays when they need them the most, that is the efficiency of winning. And when you make winning how about this? Mahomes made more winning plays. Like Hurts made more winning plays than Dak. So when you look at by the way, I think Dak, but the 62% with 374, okay, I mean, you had a lot of drops in that game, Hoss. Okay? I mean, there were a lot of like you said too at the end, you throw to your 3rd best wide receiver in a situation where you got to win a ball game. I want the best guy on my team. That's like throwing to Kenny Gainwell instead of A.J. Brown. Exactly. I'm not doing that. Hurts is not doing that. That to me right there, again, is when you go, Dak has not made plays when it matters the most. Hurts is making plays when it matters the most. There, why it lies and will always be the difference between these two guys. Making plays when it matters most. And in that game, personally, I think Jalen outplayed Dak. I don't really think it's close. I mean, I had total confidence in him. His accuracy even got better. And here's something else, Tone. People they look at Dak, and he was going against a far less unit to complete all those passes and get all those yards. Hurts was going against one of the top 3 defensive pass coverage teams in the entire National Football League. He had the tougher task of moving the sticks than what Dak is. Of course, those numbers are not going to look eye-popping. Tell you this, if Dak Prescott had to play against his own secondary, he may have thrown for 160 yards in that game yesterday.
The Dallas Cowboys have a very good defense, Sills. Like, the fact of the matter is, look, I'm not going to cut corners with this. The Dallas Cowboys have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're talented from top to bottom. That's the reality. So when you lay it out like that, you're absolutely right. Jalen Hurts had the tougher task going up against that high octane defense that the Dallas Cowboys have. And also on top of this, you know what I love about this game? The Eagles didn't take the bait. We talked about this last week. Too often, they fall in love with the passing game and they think they need to outgun you. They didn't take the bait. They came in. Jalen Hurts threw that ball 23 times. DeAndre Swift ran the ball 18 times. Jalen Hurts ran it 10 times. Kenny Gainwell ran it 3 times, got a touchdown out of it. Rashad Penny even came in and ran it twice. So they ran the ball a grand total of 33 times. You take away Jalen Hurts' rushes, they ran the ball 23 times. Oh, that happens to match up with Jalen Hurts' 23 attempts. So they had an extremely balanced attack and winning that game. And also, it helped when you had the lead in that third quarter. So again, I give kudos to this Philadelphia Eagles team for weathering the storm. And look, that defense did not play well from beginning to end. But what they did was they helped the offense get started on the right foot by starting the game off with a 3 and out. That's win number 1. The least you can do is get allow your offense to go on the field where they can be the first ones to score. They gave them that.
And they turned around on that first series and drove it down their throat.
And exactly. And then they had some timely moments, some timely stops in that fourth quarter. Because the reality is Dak was getting whatever he wanted for the most part. But the reality is that defense came up in some key moments, especially that defensive line. Brandon Graham, we was talking about this brother last week. We was talking about him. And look at that guy. You know what? Big Sills, we are gathered here today. We are gathered here today in memoriam of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jones, Deron Bland, and the Dallas Cowboys. And we cannot forget missing persons. Now,
look at the Grim Reaper.
He tried his best to get Jalen Hurts out of the game. He tried his best to pipe up his team. But the sad reality is everybody can't make it, Big Sills. Everybody won't survive the night. And lo and behold, we're here to bury our loved ones. And
a eulogy by the Grim
Dallas
Reaper here on the Cowboys.
They came, we saw, and we conquered. Amen. Amen.
So wait, so the East is wrapped up?
Oh, no, not at all, sir. But I'm living in this today.
Oh, okay. You're burying them today.
Hey, listen. On November,
all right.
on November 6th, they're buried. And a few weeks from now, we're gonna buy the tombstone.
Oh,
you know how it goes.
I got it. Hey, so we got a couple more funerals to go to.
Exactly.
Here over the next couple weeks, right?
Some families, they bury you, but they can't afford the tombstone right away. So we're gonna
right.
wait
they
on.
Bury you in a no grave. They bury you in a grave with no headstone yet. I got it.
Exactly. So again, we gather here today to remember who the Dallas Cowboys thought they were, but we're going to remind them of who they really are. Amen.
How about the way that the Cowboys moved Parsons around? Instead of just lining up over lane, they moved him around inside, outside, over Mulata.
That's exactly what I expected.
Mulata had his hands full in the first half. Second half, I thought he played better.
Yes.
That offensive line, though, Tone, I'll say this to you. That ain't the same group of a year ago. It's just not the same group. They just don't look the same.
There's definitely I'll look at it from this perspective, right? Especially on the right side. The right side has been more inconsistent than the left side. And, you know, it's so funny, Jordan Mailata, he's ranked, I believe, in the top 3, top 2 at the left tackle position according to Pro Football Focus. So he's been having a fairly you can make an argument having his best season.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're right in terms of there seems to be something off about the run game, and especially in pass in the pass, as far as pass blocking as well. Now, I will say this though, Isaac Samalu, he's actually more known for his pass blocking than his run blocking. But I'll also say this as well. I definitely expect. See, we thought Cam Jurgens was going to come back, but instead they put the rookie out there, and Tyler Steen, and I think he did a fair job, all things considered. Right? He had a tall task, but he came in and did his thing. I do believe this offensive line needed this bye week. You brought it up earlier. I feel like this bye week couldn't have been
scripted any better,
placed any better. I think these guys need a break from football. I think this first 8 or 9 weeks of the season really took a toll on them emotionally and mentally, because remember, they still think about that Super Bowl in the back of their mind. And it's so hard to maintain this level of consistency coming off of a loss like that.
Unfinished business.
So I feel like they felt some pressure. I think this bye week is going to allow them to decompress and really just sit back and look at the bigger picture and say, okay, we're 8-1. We're in pole position. Now let's maintain and let's do our job week to week to week, because I think they're going to come in after this bye week with a vengeance. I understand it's one of the toughest slates. I understand it's the toughest stretch in the NFL for any team. But this Philadelphia Eagles team has shown me that it doesn't matter who they're playing up against, they're going to find a way to win. They've been down many times coming out of halftime, and they found a way to get leads, to win the game, to dominate when it matters most. Jalen Hurts being his most accurate. My man pulled off for Patrick Mahomes. Remember in the Super Bowl when Patrick Mahomes he tweaked his ankle, and all of a sudden everybody thought he's done. He's done. Man, he went back in there, got a shot, got an IV, put the bionic knee on, and Jalen Hurts came out and started going crazy. So look, I'll tell you this right now, man.
Well, let me ask you this,
It was exciting.
Do you think that his style of play is going to be sustainable the entire year? We're at the halfway point right now.
Well,
you know
I'll
that.
say this,
and he's pretty beat up.
That's a good point. I look at it like this. So far over the past couple weeks, the past few weeks actually, he's shown you that he can win from the pocket. He's shown that. Now, granted, being a dual threat guy, being able to run and do his thing, that's a part of his game. That's an element that makes him that much more dangerous, right? So I definitely believe it's going to be imperative for him to get healthy, especially after this bye. He's going to need these 2 weeks, absolutely, for sure. But I do have my mild concerns because he made me nervous right before halftime.
He did me too.
When I saw him on the ground, and if you notice, when they slowed down that hit on his leg, that brace saved his season. That brace, because that would have been a torn ACL or MCL. That brace saved his season.
By the way, Tone, I thought the Cowboys took some cheap shots on him. Like that one play when he took off the middle, and that guy tried to throw that shoulder in on his helmet and in on his face when he ran and broke away. I thought the refs allowed them to throw a little. And you know, I'm not one to sit here and make excuses up for somebody, because I don't mind a good cheap shot every now and then. But I thought they allowed a couple extra little shots on him that I would have maybe complained on. Push out of bounds, that hit in the middle of the field where that guy threw that. I mean, he was trying to hit him in the head when he was already with his knee down. I was like, that's a cheap shot right there, dog. And they kind of let it play. It's a rivalry game. I get it. But, man, I'll tell you, I thought they – to me, I think those refs in that game, I think they referee him like Cam Newton. And that's why this guy's banged up a little more. There's not a chance in hell Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes would ever have anyone hit them like that. I saw Tom Brady last year against Carolina where a guy fell over him, not on him, and there was roughing the passer that kept the drive going, that the Bucs ended up winning that game, which won them the division. And so to me, I think when they look at Jalen, still the refs, do they give him the benefit of the doubt enough when even on pass interference? I don't know that yet. But I'll tell you what they do. They legislate those penalties on him the same way they do Newton. And I call it like the Shaquille O'Neal factor. You could have called a foul on Shaq, or you could have called a foul on anybody on Shaq every play. But after a while, you're not, because he's so imposing. And so anybody hang on him. I still think guys like that, those dual threat guys, even the referees, you see it. They're coached differently, like Seth says. And I think they're legislated on penalties different than those drop back guys. And I think that's a referee issue. Am I making more up of this? It just looks different.
The last thing I want to do is try to, take away from what the Philadelphia Eagles were able to accomplish, man. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, right?
Absolutely not. They had 10 penalties too.
Right. It was 10-10. So I'm able to live with the results here, especially when a lot of 49ers fans and Cowboys fans already think the refs already give us a better swing on things, which is not true. We're being completely honest. The Philadelphia Eagles actually are one of the more disciplined teams in the NFL. This was one of their worst games from a discipline perspective. I've never seen the Philadelphia Eagles defense look that
I thought the refs
lacked composure
calls against them.
Yeah, they lacked composure in the final minutes of that game.
They did.
If you notice, the announcer, one of the things he said was, he said this Eagles defense needs a timeout now, because remember, James Bradbury went down, and then Darius Slayton went down on the same drive right for the next play, and then the guys were going, and then Hassan Reddick went down on the same drive. Guys like the Eagles, it was a mass unit on that final drive. I don't know how the Philadelphia Eagles. That's why I rock with my guys, because it doesn't matter if it's a gurney out there, an ambulance out there. It don't matter if it's a defibrillator out there. My guys is going, they right back. It doesn't matter, man.
Hey, I want you to know this. Grim Reaper, I want you to know this.
Yes, sir.
I was texting Greg Olson during the game. He loves Hurts.
Yeah, I know he does.
He loves Hurts. Okay. He's one of my U brothers. He loves Jalen Hurts.
Hurts is
okay. He's a big fan. You know what he's a big fan of? He's a fan of how much he's gotten better. And he's like me. He looks at the completions, but he did say this, that loss of Goddard is going to hurt that team because it wobbled the team a year ago. I think he even may have done the Chicago game last year. What's your take on that one there, them losing Goddard for a month?
I'll be honest with you. That's really disappointing, because I got a fun fact for you. He got hurt in week 10 last year. The Eagles were 8-1. He got hurt this year, week 9. The Eagles are 8-1. So he literally got hurt in a 9-game span, 2 seasons in a row. And it's unfortunate, because we need a guy like him. You saw the play he got hurt on. You saw what he brings to the table.
You think he's injury prone?
Or
is it coincidence?
Back-to-back years at the same point in the season, that's definitely coincidence. But
sounds like to me, though, kind of running out of steam a little bit.
His whole career. When you think about his whole career in a nutshell, it's like, damn, man, can you play 17 games at all? You feel me? So,
yeah,
it's something that needs to be discussed, But also, I look at it like this, right? You and I questioned the Julio Jones pickup, earlier in the season. We questioned it, and I still had questions, right? And this is where Howie vision comes in full effect. There's no way you foresee an injury, of course, but you load yourself up with enough bullets in the gun to make sure you can somehow tread water. And I'll be honest with you, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Julio Jones, you still got DeAndre Swift back there in the passing game. Be on the lookout for that too. We're going to see a lot of D Swift in his passing game now. But when you think about those weapons right there, I still like those odds. So I wouldn't be surprised if they use Julio Jones in some of those route concepts they would normally put Goddard in. Running them in motion with the RPO, and then forcing the edge rusher to make a decision, delivering it. He cuts upfield. Again, I think this is a situation where, as much as it hurts, they could be in a much worse position compared to other teams. So you got to take the good with the bad.
The cornerback play.
Should I read another eulogy for this man? Because that was bad.
That was brutal. Blankenship and the kid Ricks, dude. I mean,
Bradbury, my God.
I know, man. That was brutal.
It can't just be the scheme, because they're playing essentially the same scheme. They're not doing anything. The only difference is maybe philosophy, like how they want you to approach the scheme. But as far as what they're actually doing out there, to me, the defense looks pretty much the same. So I don't understand. Like, they're not really running that much man. They do a lot of zone. Bradbury, man, he just looks shell-shocked. He's a guy who needs a bye week. He needs to get his legs back under him, because too often I saw the back of his jersey. Too often. They were picking that first half, they were picking on Eli Ricks and Sidney Brown like it was bullies in the sandbox. They were literally picking on those guys, man. So the DBs got a lot of questions they have to answer. They got to get healthy. I'm looking forward to seeing what Bradley Roby provides on a consistent basis. But man, that DB room, they're old, man. They're old, and they're starting, especially
Kid
Bradbury.
from Tennessee didn't look good either.
He didn't look the greatest either. So I'm definitely going to watch this game back to really get a feel for who did what and who was out of place and so on and so forth. I'm definitely going to watch this game back. But man, just from first glance, man, it wasn't a great performance by those guys at all. But also, I expect Dak Prescott to do what he normally does against the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's kind of like, again, what we expected this defense to struggle. We knew it from the offseason. You and I spoke about this many times. We knew the offense was going to have to be the leading character in this story when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles season. And the defense, they've had games where, listen, you're 8-1. So the defense is doing something.
They're situationally, you know what they're doing? I think they're playing really good red zone defense.
They're situationally, they are. I said this. In order for this defense we have to be okay with this defense being what it is, right? And what they have to do is they have to lean on that pass rush. You're able to stop the run, so you pretty much know how teams are going to attack you. You have to be opportunistic, and that's why they won that game yesterday. The defense was opportunistic in key moments.
Here's why they're 8-1. Teams are doing whatever they want to do against that defense from 20-20.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into that red zone, because you're number one in stopping the run, you have an extra defender in the secondary, which is the back line. So you're really playing 12 on 11, because your playbook shrinks down to 18% of the plays that you can call. And so you have an ability to be able to have another defender out there. There's not a lot of space to operate. Dallas was one of the worst teams in the red zone. They missed Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, for them not having.
You said that. I'm so glad you said it, because in my opinion, Tony Pollard was never a leading running back. Never.
There was a prime example on display that Pollard can never be the number one back.
He can't.
You know what? Quite frankly, Swift can't either.
Right.
Because Swift is not a red zone guy. I thought he played pretty tough yesterday, though, and I liked him yesterday.
He played tough.
They
need another running back.
They need somebody like a LeGarrette Blount in there.
They need somebody more physical. They need someone that's more physical.
I look at Jerry Jones and go like this, dude, it was on display. Two things you needed. You needed another number 2 receiver, because that Michael Gallup guy, that guy has brick hands. And CD is the only guy running around out there. And what makes CD, those 191 yards, you know what I looked at him as? Hey, he was really great from 20-20. When I needed him the most down in the red zone, he was nowhere to be seen, because they couldn't get the ball to him. And you have decision-making by Dak going to like the third wideout. Why would you throw to the worst guy in your group? That's a freaking dumb play, man.
Because you know
That'd be like Jalen on the goal line. And the kid from Atlanta, I'm not going to him. I'm going to AJ, then Devontae.
You know what they did? this is where the Cowboys went wrong. I was talking about this with my wife when we were watching the game. I said, baby, look at this. Because remember, they on that fourth down, he threw it to Tolbert, and James Bradbury was guarding Tolbert, and it was an incomplete pass, and it was a turnover on downs. Remember that? What they were too hung up. The Cowboys were too hung up on McCarthy, Dak Prescott. They were too hung up on trying to take advantage of our weakest link, when instead they should have been focused on
their strength,
their strongest link. See, that's when you outcoach yourself.
That's right.
And that's why the Eagles lost that Jets game. They were too focused on trying to take advantage of their the other team's weakness instead of trying to lean into their own strength. CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson was cooking the Philadelphia Eagles between the 20s. You mean to tell me on a fourth and gotta have it, you throw it to Tolbert? You throw it to Tolbert?
I don't even know who he is.
I don't even know who he is. So again, they were so hung up on trying to take advantage of an exposed James Bradbury, they forgot to actually give the ball to a wide open Ferguson, who was actually running up the seams wide open.
I would rather have had Dak take off.
I would have had him. Listen, man, this is why the Cowboys are who we know them to be. Because when it matters most, when the rubber needs to meet the road,
they panic.
They panic and they fall back on their priors. We know who this team is already. They're going to be a sexy watch. You know, they're going to put up the numbers, all that kind of stuff. But all those passing yards, right? All those yards they put up, 23 points. So that goes to your point. Maybe this Eagles team, they're giving up a lot of yards, but they're keeping the score within reach of their offense.
Red zone defense. The red zone offense isn't good, but they've got to be one of the better teams in keeping people out of the end zone. I'd like to know how many points they've given up this year compared to the rest of the NFC teams, because, you know, I don't really see a ton of points that they've given up this year. So that means to me, at least, Tone, what are they, like, maybe 17th? They've got to be like 13th, maybe.
The Eagles, in terms of points given up per game, total points, the Philadelphia Eagles are giving up 21 points per game.
You're going to win every game with that.
That's ranked 20th in the NFL.
No way. I'm okay with that.
Right. Now, here's the thing, right?
How many teams are going to beat Philadelphia, in your opinion, scoring 20 points?
And bingo. And that's what we talked about all offseason. This Eagles offense has to put up at minimum 27 points per game for them to win consistently.
And they're putting up 28.
And they're putting up 28.
Yeah.
They're putting up 28.
20 points. You're putting up 20. You're holding teams to 20 points. You're going to win them. In today's NFL, you're going to win them. All right, let's do this. How about the coordinators? Let's start with the offense.
I think Brian Johnson, from quarters 1 through 3, had his best 3-quarter stretch all season. I felt like he was creative. I felt like he didn't panic. I felt like he allowed his running game to take shape in some way. I mean, it wasn't the most dominant running game, but he didn't abandon it, right? I felt like he maintained a balanced approach. I felt like he did a good job trying to get the ball in his playmakers' hands. I like the sequencing. I just feel like they were significantly better in the red zone. The Eagles were 100% in the red zone, 3 for 3. So the red zone play calling was very creative, and I felt like he did a good job, especially in that third. That third quarter was a masterpiece. The fourth quarter, he would have got an A+. That fourth quarter dropped into a B+ to me, because he had such a bad fourth quarter. That 3rd and 3 call to throw a deep ball to A.J. Brown is unforgivable. Why? Unforgivable. That's how you lose games.
That's Brandon Staley stuff.
That's how you lose games. You ran the ball on first down. You ran it on second down. And third and 3, you're supposed to run it again. At the very least, you get yourself 2 yards. You're at 4th and 1. What do? The brotherly shove.
And you're still working the clock.
And you're still working the clock. But when you decide to throw it on 3rd and 3, you don't catch the ball, so the clock stops. And then you got to turn it over and give it back to him. And also, Dallas still has 3 timeouts. So that fourth quarter was a shit show. But from quarters 1 through 3, I feel like he put them in position with that 11-point lead. And I'll give Brian Johnson a B+ on the day. That fourth quarter was just cataclysmic.
I think the running game and them not going to it, and then them getting committed to it. I mean, he was trying to do so much balance, and I respected it. Even though they think they had 3.9 a carry in that game, they didn't get away from it, which kept that third and it kept play action alive for Hurts, which slowed down the Cowboy rush defense a little bit and enough for Jalen to make throws. I liked how they stuck with it. Wasn't a ton of success. What they have in the ball game, 109 yards rushing. Not a stellar performance, but 33 attempts. What does that see? It's not so much the yards per carry. It's that when you're a coordinator and you're Dan Quinn and you see 33, that's what they're trending to, 33 attempts. That's when you go like this. Okay, we still got to play the run because the previous 3 weeks, they abandoned it and they stuck with it, which means you have to honor it. And you have to honor it. And they kept going with it. And so I really liked what he did there by sticking to it. That was patience. They got to the fourth, though, and all of a sudden they started seeing Dak coming back, and the defense couldn't stop him. Then when they scored, then all of a sudden you saw him get a little tighter. That's when the 3rd and 3 popped up, and you're like this, bro, that's not where you call that play.
Now,
if anything, punting is also part of the game.
Right.
Field
Let me ask you a
position,
question.
you change it. Clock continues. Look at what you did there, Tone. Think about this. You're 3rd and 3. You hike the ball. You don't get it. There's 25 seconds. Okay? You get back. You snap the ball. There's another 25 seconds when you punt the ball. You're talking a full minute you take off the clock there late in a ball game. You probably caused Dallas to have to use a timeout prior to the 4th down because you're trying to save time for Dak to get the ball back and go back down. And you're sitting here going like this. You didn't force him to use a timeout. You stopped the clock, which means this. You gave him another possession.
Exactly. That's exactly what they did. Because if you think about it, if they run the ball on 3rd down, if they just run it on 3rd down instead of passing it, that eliminates that entire 45 seconds that the Cowboys had at the end of the game. That eliminates that drive. That eliminates that drive completely. You know what I'm saying? So, again, I got a question for you, right? Is that something that gets refined with experience with the offensive coordinator, right? The more you're in certain situations, the more you could, double back and say, okay, I've been in this situation before. I did this. Now I know what not to do.
That's on the quarterback too. That's on the quarterback too. I mean, the whole thing is an experience, that situation, because an experienced guy. Well, one thing I saw Dak doing that was way different. Dak did a lot of audibling. He did a lot of changing of the plays in the middle there, and and guess what he audibled to? He audibled to run plays. He wasn't really audibling to pass plays, and he was changing McCarthy's plays in the middle of the game. And I was like, holy shit, I hadn't seen that under Kellen Moore a lot, but there I saw him. And when most guys they'll audible into a pass play. Dak was audibling into run plays because he saw something in the line alignment that gave that. And Pollard had some success in the second half because of that audibling. That's what Jalen has to do a little bit of. He's got to take him out of bad plays like that throw. Let's run it, man. If anything, Jalen, maybe they're telling him, hey, we don't want you to run. Well, I want him to run in a situation like that. That was a defining game for him.
Yeah,
and
sometimes
you could have ended that game right there.
Sometimes Jalen can be too much of a rule follower. You know what I mean?
Well, no, he's the coach's kid.
And I respect it because he's a
coach's kid. He respects the authority of the coach's position. You know what, Tone? It's really it's a fine line you play as a guy who continues to develop as. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is not going to overturn Andy Reid's calls every freaking play, but there's going to be a time in the game where he's going to have to change the play, and then he's going to go to the sideline, and Andy's going to ask him, "What'd you see?" It's not going to be mad at him. He's going to know what'd you see.
You know what's so funny?
Jalen has to get to that point too.
You know what's so funny? The Eagles so far in their past 2 quarterbacks with Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, they've had two players that exist on 2 complete different sides of the spectrum. You have Carson Wentz, a guy who's not coachable. And then you have Jalen Hurts, a guy who's arguably too coachable. You know what I'm saying? So it's so far. I mean, I'll rather deal with the guy who's coachable, obviously. But again, I think that comes with experience, being in more of those situations. Look, Jalen Hurts, last season they weren't really put in the situations. They've been put in way more gotta have it situations this season than they have in the past 2 seasons combined. Like, think about it. They've been put in so many, they've been in a hole quite a few times this season, and they've found ways to win. And I really believe these type of experiences that Jalen Hurts is logging in the Rolodex, that Brian Johnson, those guys are logging, in the catalog, I think is going to bode well in the long term, especially come playoff time.
You know what, though? I'm going to tell you this, man. That bomb almost cost you the game.
Yes.
Okay? Remember what I said to you on Friday?
The moment it happened, I literally screamed to my wife, we're going to lose this game. If we lose the game, that's why we lost. That play right there. Coaching
in the end. And get this. Here's the 2 things that were critical in the game at the very end. Decision-making by Dak going to that nobody wideout, and coaching at the end of that game gave Dallas the opportunity to win that game. Dallas couldn't capitalize on it, okay? Because of poor situational – and as good as Dak played, watch this. Here's the problem in a game like that. Dak could play great in a 10-play drive for 9 of them and make one poor decision to some dude named – what's his name? Tolbert. Great. Okay. Some dude named Tolbert. There's your game. Ball game.
Sills, you say it all the time. You said Jimmy Johnson taught you this. It's not about the good plays you make. It's about the bad ones you don't make.
You don't make.
You say it all the time.
He doesn't. Jimmy, when Jimmy was coaching us, he was never about making spectacular plays. You're an NFL guy. You're a college superstar. He expects you to make plays. What he doesn't want you to do is illegal procedures, pre-snap penalties, turnovers, unsportsmanlike conduct, things like that get your team beat, because that takes no talent. Think about this, like in some of those penalties and such that you see in that game. The pre-snap penalties, the illegal procedures, the lining up both sides like the Cowboy guy. If I were Dan Quinn, I'd kick that guy's ass, because I'd be like, you see what you just did there? You just gave 10 yards up on a series that we have to win to get them off the field. And you know what you did? You compromised us by not doing the littlest thing. It takes no ability to line up on sides. You don't have to be a superstar DT. That's a mistake. That's almost like a turnover. When you keep a drive going and you keep people moving down the field, it drives me. That's why I couldn't coach, because that shit would absolutely drive me crazy. Let me get you on the defensive side.
Yep.
What do you think of Sean Desai? By the way, before you answer, I saw some of the craziest comments. Fire Desai, and I'm like, guys, 8-1. I'm like, are you crazy? What are you talking about, man? His secondary, those are used parts. Every one of them. You got 2 old cars, and you know what you got? You got used parts in the safety position, and really even at linebacker. You're trying to win a Super Bowl on the cheap side. Okay? This team is not as expensive as last year's team defensively.
Yep.
Think about it. You got 2 free agents that you picked up. One guy was cut already. And your safeties are kind of like a collection of draft choices and free agents. And your corners are old. And because the volume of pressure is not coming like it did a year ago, they're getting exposed.
Absolutely. I'm definitely not on the fire to Sean Desai campaign. That's asinine to me. You're still 8-1. I'll look at it like this, right? If Sean Desai and Jonathan Gannon swapped personnel from last year to this year, who you taking? I believe Jonathan Gannon. I believe Jonathan Gannon wouldn't know what to do with this personnel. I firmly believe that he would have been in Howie Roseman's office talking about, hey, listen, I need this guy, I need that guy, I need this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like Sean Desai is doing the best he can with aging veterans. He's been dealing with a ton of injuries, and in his defensive back room. He's even dealt with some injuries on the defensive line, injuries at linebacker. He hasn't had the same group, for a 2-week span in forever. I think this week was the first time he had the first set of guys, but even then you're still missing Bradley Roby. You know what I'm saying? So you're missing your starting slot and Devontae. You're missing the backup to the starter and Zach McPherson. He's dealt with so many injuries on that side of the ball and still held the Dallas Cowboys to 23 points. It has to be discussed. Let's really think about this, right? We talked about it earlier. The Eagles are averaging giving up 20 points a game, 21 points a game. They gave up 20 points to the Patriots. They gave up 28 to the Vikings. They only gave up 11 to the Buccaneers. They gave up 31 to the Commanders. They gave up 14 to the Rams, 14 to the Jets, 17 to the Dolphins. That was his best stretch defensively right there. And then the Commanders, 31, and then the Cowboys, 23. So from a scoring perspective,
I'll take every one of those.
I'll take it because we knew this. And see, this is the part where people try to change history, or they try to move the goalposts. We knew coming into this season, this defense was not going to be as talented or as good as they were last year. On top of that, you don't get blessed from an injury perspective 2 weeks, 2 years in a row like that. You just don't. No, since when do people go into the Super Bowl having all 22 starters available? It never happens. So when I think about it from that perspective, I'm taking the good with the bad. I understand that this defense is literally going to be a project through and through, and they're going to be on a week-to-week basis. And we knew this offense was going to have to be the one to lead the charge. We knew this. So I don't understand why we're trying to act brand new about it. I understand when the game starts, you get upset. I get upset, right? But the reality is, when you hold the Cowboys at 23 points, you better beat them. Your offense better show up. And lo and behold, they did just that. So for that game, I'm giving Sean Desai. I'll give Sean Desai a B-. I'll give him a B- because he's not out there guarding, right? Bradbury gets a flat-out F. But Sean Desai, he gets a B- from me.
Oh, the coaching was better than the play.
The coaching was significantly better than the way they played. And also, you got to give credit where credit's due too. There was plenty of times the Eagles had Dak Prescott dead to rights, but he moved in that pocket and he ran. Yeah. They had him running for his life in the first half. So, you got to give credit where credit's due, man. The other team gets paid to make plays as well. So you held the Cowboys 23 points. You better win that game. Defense did their job. 23 points. I think they did their job, honestly.
It just sounds like piling on, and I don't want to anymore. So I'll probably, maybe after this week, I'll probably stop. But dude,
I know where you're going. I know where you're going with this.
This thing with Dean, man, is almost as obnoxious as Gainwell. And Gainwell actually played well in that game.
Yeah, had a touchdown
on Sunday. Yeah. I thought the first touchdown run was awesome. He dove into the end zone. I thought the whole thing, he blocked well. I thought Kenny Gainwell actually redeemed himself in that ball game on Sunday. And I liked the way he played. But dude, man, I mean, I remember I told you that Ferguson was going to eat up that middle of that zone. And what do you have, 25 catches? We looked at it. He had like 25 catches in like 7 games going into that thing. And he comes out with 7 catches and 91 yards. It's been a game of inches all season, 8-1. Yeah, but you know what? As long as it falls on your side of the aisle, you're good.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, this game, the Cowboys game was the epitome of game of inches. The epitome of it. Nakobe Dean, though, like you said,
Tone, I don't even know if he's good.
That's the thing. I don't know what he is.
Right.
But one thing I do know, he has not been able to stay on the field consistently, which makes it hard for me to really judge his play. But another thing I know is I know what they look like when they have Nicholas Morrow out there and Zach Cunningham. I know what that looks like, and
stabilized.
It's stabilized. That's all. Again, like you said, I don't want to keep piling on a young man.
I know, because it's just I think the Eagles are putting him in a very poor situation. What is very telling to me is that Jalen's QB rating is almost double what Dak's rating is when playing from behind. That says it all. Dak Prescott was outplayed by Jalen Hurts in this game. I don't give a shit what the numbers say. He made more situation plays that mattered to win a game than what Dak did. And his decision making outside of the pass down the field that he did not veto, that's on him too, dude. You got to veto shit like that. You're late in a ball game and you're throwing on 3rd and 3, and that guy doesn't complete that pass. Someone's got to step in. Where's Nick in this? You know, I guess what's going to happen. I already know it. Wednesday, Nick is going to apologize for that. Okay, he'll apologize and say it was my call.
Oh my God, man! I don't care whose call it is. It's idiotic. If it's your call, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting absolutely sick of it here. Okay, I'm gonna throw these teams at you here.
Yep.
By the way, Gary Cobb at 4:30 here.
Yeah, man. Can't wait to see what G Cobb says. It's going to be awesome.
So, NFC playoffs right now, number 1 seed. They got a game lead over Detroit. San Francisco is at 5-3 in the West. New Orleans is at 5-4 in the South. Seattle's the wild card as of right now in the West. Dallas is the wild card in the West. And Minnesota is 5-4, and they are the wild card in the North. That's the playoff teams right now as they sit. Philly 1, Detroit 2, San Francisco 3, New Orleans 4. You'd have the bye. It would be this: Detroit, Minnesota as of right now. San Francisco, Dallas would be the opening wild card game.
Dallas don't want that smoke again. They don't want that again.
Is that what it would be? It would be Detroit, Minnesota.
Yep.
San Francisco, Dallas.
Dallas.
It would be New Orleans and Seattle.
That's exciting right there.
Any one of those teams worry you on the NFC side?
I'm always going to be concerned with the 49ers and the Cowboys because they are who they are and they're talented. And, you know, that's why home field advantage is so important in this stretch, because if you get it, you can dictate the terms of war. So I'm always going to pay attention to the 49ers and the Cowboys. Everybody else, I think they're just here for a good time, honestly.
They're just wait a minute, Tone. So you're saying the Dallas Cowboys are just a party boat?
I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is 49ers, Cowboys, those are the teams I pay attention to. Everyone else.
Yeah, you talked about Dallas like they're strippers, man. I mean,
well, listen. When the rent is due, player, you got to come collect. You know what I'm saying? Today I'm basking in our glory, but I understand what Dallas is in reality. I understand the Eagles could have lost that game. I could be singing a totally different tune today. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we wasn't there. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, right? Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
I don't subscribe to that stuff.
No, I don't either. But I just want to have as much respect for the opponent as I can, without
except Dallas.
Except Dallas. Except Dallas today. Because again, Dak Prescott, I know what he does to the Philadelphia Eagles. I know that he plays above and beyond for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I have to respect that notion. But I'm gonna always talk trash about them no matter what, and it's never gonna change. But I do respect their defense. I respect their defense is for real.
Their secondary is really good.
Yeah.
Here's the AFC. Kansas City's number 1 at 7-2. That's a team you play coming out of the bye. Baltimore second. By the way, Baltimore is for real. I watched that team. They beat up Seattle. I mean, they didn't beat them, Tone. They beat them up.
They abused them, honestly.
I mean, Baltimore second at 7-2. You got the Jags at 6-2. Miami is 6-3. Pittsburgh 5-3, which has been a surprise. talks about the great coach and Tomlin. Cleveland at 5-3. I don't know how with Mrs. Watson. And there's Cincinnati, man. Cincinnati's beating San Francisco. But what do you notice here that I didn't mention? There's no Buffalo in the top 7 there. And if the playoffs were to start right now,
the entire
Buffalo's
AFC.
out.
Listen, the entire AFC North can get into the playoffs.
I
How
know
does that sound?
all 4 teams are in it.
That is insane. But also, I was looking at me and Rob were breaking down their schedules respectively. Baltimore, Browns, Bengals, Steelers. We were looking at their schedule. And honestly, just based off the way their schedule's set up, I understand Baltimore, it looks like world beaters, but Cincinnati is coming, and they're coming in hot.
Yeah.
And that division, in my humble opinion, is the furthest thing from guaranteed to the Ravens. The furthest thing from guaranteed. They cannot slip. So very well that entire division can get into the playoffs. I don't know if Pittsburgh can sustain. That defense is only going to take them but so far. But overall, man, that AFC North, oh man, it's going to be a war. It's going to be a war. And the Ravens, as good as they look, nothing is guaranteed over there. Joe Burrow and those guys are coming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tone, Reaper, Mayor, great stuff, man. You look great too, by the way, man. I love that look.
And listen, sometimes you got to bring.
It's the good, the bad, the ugly, man.
And listen,
like it.
Sometimes they call it your Sunday's best. Sometimes you got to be called your Monday's best. Okay, you know what I mean. So look, like I said,
you look like Michael Corleone.
We were gathered here to witness the burial of the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Jerry Jones and Deron Bland. It was a beautiful life they lived.
I got to get you one of these, though, man. I got to get you one of these to hang there, man. You know, I got to get you something like that there, man, to put something out there for you.
Hey, listen. I need one of those. I need one of those Godfather rings. You feel me?
Yeah.
I need one of those
I know
rings.
what you're talking about here. Hey, I got what you're saying there. Hey, Tom, great stuff, man. I can't tell you I appreciate it. Great segment as always. Thank you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. The Grim Reaper, man. Doing eulogies right now for the Dallas Cowboys. Gary Cobb's going to join us at 4:30. Don't forget, Happy Wingsgiving from Hooters. Throughout the entire month of November, they're going to be giving you great specials. The iconic Hooter girls want you to know and thank you for what you guys have done. Ice Cold Coors Light, $2.99. One of the specials, 25 cents, goes to local charities. The Hooter calendars are out, 2024, $100 in coupons. Go to northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com. Lunch specials, Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 3. Boneless wings. Happy hour, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6. 6 items, $6. Do me a favor, try the fried pickles. Military Monday, 20% off all our great military folks who served our government. Wing Wednesdays, 1983, all you can eat. Kids eat for free on Saturdays. That's northeasthooters.com. Northeasthooters.com. When you roll into Hooters, do me a favor, tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.